the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us tonight. Ooh, we got a lot of clips to play. President Trump in Davos at the World Economic Forum. We played a bunch today with Patrick Wood and Trevor Loudon. We're going to have Tommy Robinson on from Great Britain here in just a few minutes. And then Melissa Howse, her first appearance in the studio for 2026. And then I want to bring you a very special tour. I specifically asked our reporter on the ground in Israel and our tour guide, Aharon Levarko, a registered 30-year tour guide in Israel, to go to Qumran and to give us a tour of Qumran. And this is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, where for about 2,000 years, these Dead Sea Scrolls were in a couple caves there in clay pots. And they are so vital when it comes to archaeological evidence that confirms the authenticity and veracity and accuracy of the Bible, that these manuscripts, which are copies of the original, provide to us the consistency. It's a miracle, the Bible is. It is such a consistent book, all 66 from beginning to end. And the Dead Sea Scrolls and their discovery by a young Bedouin shepherd boy, young man, I think, really, who was throwing some rocks, heard a crash of the clay pots, or at least one of the clay pots, and then went in and found these Dead Sea Scrolls. And there's a big story behind it. I covered it in my series on Daniel 2 weeks ago, a lot about the Dead Sea Scrolls and their background. So with that, I asked Aharon Levarko, hey, can you go over there to Qumran and film for us? So we have about 30 minutes to present you tonight our very own unique and exclusive tour of Qumran. How many other networks have a reporter on the ground in Israel? But not only a reporter on the ground in Israel, a 30-year licensed tour guide to take us on tour of the Holy Land. Hope you appreciate it. Thank you for supporting us through our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com, that helps make that possible. worldviewfoundation.com. All right. I mentioned today, before we get to some of the other issues, I mentioned today on radio a video that I saw coming out of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. That's a suburb of the Twin Cities. I used to go up and work a lot with Brooklyn Park Evangelical Free Church. I don't even think they have the same name anymore. Did a concert for them many years ago on the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. Worked with one of their senior pastor at the time, who also would come out to my hymn sings at St. Paul's Como Park and do the opening prayer, closing prayer, and a little devotional and give the gospel in the center of the concert. And I led those outdoor concerts in St. Paul's Como Park for 12 years. And I've been back down here in the Memphis area for 21 years next month. But I know Brooklyn Park well. And I saw a video today of one of the leaders, I think it was the Brooklyn Park police chief, to be specific, talking about what ICE was doing. And I think I need to play this for you, because this is where we're going to have a real public relations problem coming up going into the midterms if the Trump administration doesn't rein this in the right way. How many of you would like to be pulled over as an American and asked, where are your papers? You don't have papers. We have a driver's license. I don't think you run around with your birth certificate in your pocket, do you? But of course, this is why they want things like smart ID, the smart card, which, by the way, those real IDs will have your birth certificate and social security number and all that stuff, I'm told, embedded on there. So is that what this is really all about? Again, conditioning people, where even some of us get tired of the negative aspects of what's happening, to the point that even Trump supporters will say, if we can stop Americans being pulled over or grilled, maybe the way to do this is to go to biometrics, digital ID. Don't underestimate the uniparty's ability to convince President Trump to do things that they then go in and mess up. So it creates chaos or backlash against him, or even conditions the public to say, okay, let's go to digital ID and knock all this off. Go to digital ID, then we can quit arresting housekeepers and maids and cooks and people that work at the restaurants and factories, some of them that, maybe these business owners and families want here. We'll have a situation with our border where people can come and go with biometrics. That's what I warned about in January of 2020. I did a whole show on the United Nations ID 2020. ID 2020. And what I'm talking about is the fact that we have a couple stories here. I know of a guy that owns property here in the Mid-South. He had a tenant move out and another tenant was coming in, and he sent a contractor in to paint the house inside to get ready for the next tenant. The contractor apparently had somebody in there helping, unbeknown to the guy that owned the property. Had somebody in there, the contractor did, painting that was apparently an illegal alien. And the person was inside the home and it was locked and they were in there painting. And apparently the guy that hired him had gone off to run an errand and that person was in the house by themselves painting. And I don't know if it was their phone that was used as a tracker, but some folks showed up wearing vests and the neighbors were taking pictures of this. And they were wearing vests like police officers, but it didn't say ICE. It was like they were paid bounty hunters. No insignia on their vests or anything. And they showed up at the house and they broke down a black security door and broke then down the other door and the whole frame around the door and tore up that place to about $1,000 in damage. Grabbed that person out of that house that was doing that work and never left a note saying that they had been there, who they were, sorry for the damage, here's who to call. Wait a minute. Where was their warrant to trespass onto that private property? To go in and do property damage to some guy that's worked hard to obtain a rental property and you're destroying his property? He has the contractor he hired apparently had someone that maybe they should have had. But is that on the homeowner that hires a contractor? Is that worth tearing up their property for? Violating his civil liberties and rights? And then not even leaving a note as to who did the damage? Thankfully, a neighbor had taken a bunch of pictures, and so the homeowner was able to find out what was going on. It turned out it looked like it was a bunch of guys hired, given bounties, not even real ICE people. Is that the kind of public relations we really want to see for the Trump administration? I don't think so. And then I found this today from the Brooklyn Park, Minnesota chief of police. He seems pretty reasonable. I found one video and I played it on the air today. And then I found another one. This is the one I found this afternoon. Listen to this and watch, please.
Is the rhetoric of abolish ICE or that there shouldn't be immigration enforcement. The truth is, immigration enforcement is necessary for our national security and for local security. But how it's done is extremely important. In fact, we have a long history of working exceptionally well with our federal partners, including ICE agents, and we have seen the best of them perform their job extremely well in the past. With that said, recently, as the last 2 weeks, we, as law enforcement community, have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations in our streets from U.S. citizens. What we're hearing is they're being stopped in traffic stops or on the street with no cause and being forced to demand paperwork to determine if they are here legally. As this went on over the past 2 weeks, we started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. If it is happening to our officers, it pains me to think of how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day. It has to stop.
We recognize by standing here today that some might say, you're only speaking up because this is happening to the cops. Others will say that we're speaking out against ICE, and that means we want rapists on the street. Neither of those things are true. We want to find some common ground. Law enforcement has more authority than a general citizen. That means we have more responsibility in how we behave.
Now, I want to be really clear.
So there you go. Now, I've been out of the Twin Cities for 21 years next month, but I used to know a pretty high-ranking member of the St. Paul Police Department, pretty high-ranking, saying at his grandfather's funeral, I was good friends with his father, who was co-chair of the St. Paul City Council. When I lived there, and I'm not from there, but when I lived there, St. Paul was a really well-respected town. Good police department. There were some very reasonable city council members. I mean, some of them were out to the left, no doubt about it, but there were some very reasonable ones. I rented St. Paul's Como Park Pavilion that I've already referenced tonight. I rented that for 12 years for multiple concerts a summer to do Christian hymn sings, openly publicized as Christian hymn sings, where I bought hundreds of hymnals and brought in choirs and orchestras and would have anywhere from 700-800 to 2,000 people, depending on the evening and what was going on. Not only did we receive a super positive experience with the St. Paul government, when we went to them and said, we want to bring back the old-fashioned hymn sings to St. Paul's Como Park, the man that I worked with to do that, who I had to get the permits from, remembered a man that I knew growing up who had led those for many, many, many years. And they'd been gone for like 12 years, and then I brought them back for 12 years. At the St. Paul Park and Rec, they were super excited that I was bringing back the hymn sings. That's how much of a reasonable, family-friendly culture there was in St. Paul. The St. Paul Park and Rec bent over backwards to accommodate us, to help us, to give us dates every year. They would actually often call me for, what are the dates you want for your hymn sing before we open it up to other people? Because I was pretty much a historical event going on that had been there for when I got done between Hugo Hagstrom's years and my years, 42 years or something like that of leading those St. Paul Como Park hymn sings. The police department, patrolling, security, not that there was really needed anything there. It was a very friendly community, St. Paul. And the police department was very well respected. And it was very safe and clean to walk around in downtown St. Paul. I had a lot of respect for the St. Paul Police Department. I had people I knew who were on that department and their family members on that department. So when I see someone like these police chiefs, Brooklyn Park, St. Paul Police Chief, I don't immediately say, oh, well, this is Minnesota. These are all a bunch of leftists up there. If they don't get this under control, that may very well happen. But I'm telling you, historically, St. Paul, the St. Paul side of the Twin Cities, has not been some radical situation there at all. If it was, they would have never let me rent out the pavilion for 12 years and encouraged it for hymn sings, for patriotic celebrations for the 4th of July. So this is becoming a public relations problem even for the police. And this is not going to be good for President Trump and the midterms if they don't get this under control. And if they're scraping the bottom of the barrel by hiring so-called bounty hunters to go out and round these people up, they might want to think twice on that. I'm not as concerned about doing it fast as I'm doing it effectively and according to the law and protecting the constitutional rights of Americans. With that being said, let me go to another clip. This one I played today, okay? This one I played today for radio. Look at what happened to one of his own officers, which is, of course, what brought all of this to the forefront. Here we go.
A particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped as she passed ICE going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, preventing her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers, but what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted, and that's what they were.
And you know what, folks? I appreciate his comments earlier. Hey, we work with ICE. We're not opposed to immigration. We've worked with ICE, but there's the right way, the wrong way, the constitutional way to do this. Folks, if this kind of abuse is going on now under the Trump administration, we're not going to have a whole lot of grounds to say anything when it goes on under a, I don't know, Gavin Newsom presidential administration or whoever it might be the next guy. If we can't say, no, we're not politicizing this. There's a right way, wrong way, constitutional way, unconstitutional way. We're not tolerating this. We all better speak up. Because again, this is also going to create a massive public relations problem for the Republicans come election time, midterms. Why not, as Trevor Loudon said today, get more effective with E-Verify? Who's being hired? A lot of those people, when they can't get hired, will self-deport. They'll leave. When they're cut off from the welfare dole because the states are verifying and vetting who's getting funds and they're not giving them to illegal immigrants anymore like they're doing up in Minnesota, which I guess is going on in many other places now. If that stops, they'll leave. Now, I'm not saying that they should be rounding up all these gang members and thugs, of which I hear they've rounded up about 7,000 of these thugs and gang members. Good. But in the process, I don't think we should be violating the liberties and freedoms and constitutional rights of Americans. Do you? It isn't either or, folks. And this is the problem with a lot of MAGA people. They're more emotional, some of them, than they are constitutional. They have an emotional response. As long as it's getting done, we don't care about how. No, you better care because you're going to have zero credibility to say anything when this kind of thing is happening under another administration, but far worse. The rule of law, the Constitution, we must consistently carry it out from one administration to another, regardless of party. So I thought I'd play that for you tonight. Because that's what we do here. We don't jump on political bandwagons and ignore problems because, what's happening under an administration we tend to like, therefore we won't say anything. No. This is where we, the people, say to our president, his administration, our elected officials, there's a right way, as that chief said, and a wrong way, a constitutional way and an unconstitutional way to do it. We also have news tonight on another front. President Trump has put this on Truth Social. Based on a very productive meeting that I have had with Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February 1st. Additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be available as discussions progress. Okay, this is very good. Because again, that Golden Dome seems to be necessary for Greenland to be involved if it's going to come to fruition. And I think the idea of a dome that protects us as a country, like the Iron Dome in Israel, is a very good idea. And I commend President Trump for doing it and getting it done. Let's hope he's able to finish that one up. Now, I'm going to play some clips tonight for you of President Trump during my interview coming up here with Tommy Robinson. I played a bunch on radio and television today, so I won't rehash that. But we're going to have, as I said, Tommy Robinson, and then we're going to have Melissa Howse for a few minutes, and then we're going to have a special tour by Aharon Levarko of Qumran. I'm very excited about that tonight. I love that area, that history, that archaeology. Apologetics, which is not apologizing for the Christian faith. It's in a defense of the Christian faith. And you know that not one archaeological discovery has ever disproven the Bible. Not one. So I love these kind of programs. All right, before we get started with Tommy Robinson tonight, remember, we are brought to you by you. I take it each and every day. Bella Grace, I don't have one here. I guess I already took it. I take Bella Grace each and every day. I hope you'll go to melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. We also have the Bella Melts, these caramel little melts. You can take several a day. Most people do 3 to 4 or 5. Curb your appetite, stimulates your body's own natural GLP-1 to help you lose weight. melissahousebg.com. You know I take Gatatana every day, the little green drink with the phytoplankton. Half a scoop goes to Dolly on her food every day. 5 clinical trials behind this. And of course, this is what the man developed who was given a terminal diagnosis. He started eating this phytoplankton he is raising for his starfish and crayfish, went on to live another 10 years. All the studies are there. I highly recommend this. Feeding your cells down to the mitochondria to boost your immune system so your body can fight off all the bad things itself with a boosted and healthy immune system. Really, what we're talking about here is food as medicine, phytoplankton, nothing added to it, all natural. Check it out, melissahousegpa.com. Then, of course, we have the Numi. That's glutathione. That's in here somewhere. There it is. Glutathione, that is a all-natural molecule that starts to decrease around the age of 20. It's vital. You can't live without it. There are 165,000 studies on glutathione at PubMed. Some studies show glutathione may actually remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. This is a great way to detox your cells. Now, you can swish with it for about 3 minutes and then swallow or spit it out, but it's in your bloodstream within 90 seconds to detox your cells. And we all know we're coming in contact with all kinds of forever chemicals and plastics and toxins. It's just unavoidable in today's world. So boost your immune system so you stay healthy. As we were talking with Dr. Lana and we're talking with Dr. Bashima the other day, Dr. Bashima is saying she hasn't had a virus and been sick for years because she boosts her immune system so much that she believes her immune system fights these things off before she even has the opportunity to know she had something. So there's so much to be said for boosting your immune system. If you have this Numi, the glutathione, and you feel like you have a sore throat, coming down with a sore throat or something, you can swish with this several times a day. Melissa and I have both gotten where we start feeling like we're coming down with something, and we start boosting our glutathione, boosting our phytoplankton, the Gatatana, boosting our Bella Grace, but particularly the Numi because it detoxifies your cells. So you can do it multiple times a day, and we've done that, and then all of a sudden, within 24 hours, whatever we were starting to come down with, sore throat, everything's gone. So again, this is a great way to prevent, but also to stop it from furthering. But keep your immune system, your God-given immune system boosted to fight off all of the things that are warring against our health. You'll find them all there at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And of course, there's a big snowstorm coming for about 160 million Americans. What's the latest on that, Logan? Do we have a clip by the meteorologist I like to follow? Ryan Hall? Yeah, you want to play that one? While he's grabbing that one, because it looks like it's going to be a humdinger. The issue is it going to be snow or ice? Snow or ice? We'll take the snow. The ice is an issue because it collects on the trees. The limbs on these trees break off, and some of them are big old limbs, and they then hit the power lines. The power lines go down, no power. So one of my friends, I called him last night, because he has a generator like our studio does. And I said, well, you might get to use your Generac this weekend. And we were talking about that. He said, my wife and I went to Costco. We walked in the door and the line to the register was from the back of the store all the way up to the register. Yeah, that's Memphis, Tennessee, folks. When even there's the threat of flurries, they clean out the meat, the milk, the eggs, the bread. But now they're talking here about potential ice and power outages for several days. Ooh, let's pray that doesn't happen because people lose their life when that happens. So check on your older friends and whatnot. in the Mid-South or wherever you might be, whether you're on the line of snow or ice. That's the line everybody's watching. But here's the point before we show that clip. Do you have a solar generator? I have the Delta Echo 400 charged and ready to go. So should we have a disruption of LP for the generator, then we have the option of the solar generator for running our coffee pots and little heaters and charging our phones and iPads and satellite phone. Do you have a satellite phone? The power goes down and you're without cell towers. Do you have a satellite phone? All of this is at worldviewtalk.com. These should already be a part of your plans, your prepper plans, right? Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Now, I really like to follow this meteorologist. We're reaching out to him. Have you reached out to him yet, Logan? All right, we're waiting to hear back. And if you want to flood Ryan Hall with a direct message saying, I hear Brannon Howse is trying to interview you. Accept the invite. Accept the invite. We'd love to interview Ryan. But I like watching him when these storms break out. All right, listen to what Ryan Hall is saying tonight, the latest report. Here we go. Watch this.
If you live in the path of this upcoming major winter storm, here's where we stand right now. Last night, some of the models shifted north, way north, but not all of them. There's a lot of noise on social media right now about exact totals and specific snowfall maps, but the fine details are still not locked in. Here's what is locked in. A major winter storm is coming Friday through the weekend. 160 million people are under the gun by Sunday morning, and winter storm watches from New Mexico all the way to Tennessee are expanding right now. There's going to be a snow side to this storm and an ice side. If you end up in the icing zone, plan for days without power. School cancellations next week across a huge area. And whatever you do, don't plan for a road trip this weekend. People are going to get stuck on the highways. And after this storm passes, we're looking at record cold temperatures sticking around for a while. That part is guaranteed. Charge your devices, stock up on essentials, check on elderly neighbors, and have a plan for staying warm if the power goes out. The models are going to keep shifting, but here soon we are going to start talking about specific numbers for your area. So like and follow for more updates.
All right. So there you go. We'll keep you posted. Let's pray the power stays on for everybody. Because again, that's where a lot of people have problems that are on oxygen machines and so much. So pray for everybody's safety. And we're going to do our best to stay on the air, but just let you know what's going on. You think we're going to make it, Logan? You think we'll stay on the air? He thinks we're going to stay on the air. We have a big enough generator. We should. So there you go. Worldviewtalk.com. All right. Let's take a quick break, come right back, and go to Tommy Robinson. What I need you to do right now is tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Tell everybody Tommy Robinson from Great Britain coming on with Brannon Howse right now. We're going to play a bunch of clips from President Trump at Davos today, get a response from Tommy, and an update on what's going on in the UK and the war on free speech and the rise of Islam and the weaponization of immigration to destroy Western societies. Tommy Robinson coming up next. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Get all your friends here. He will be with us right after this. Don't go away.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Joining me now is Tommy Robinson. He is back. We got a huge response the last time he was with us, and we're so glad to have him with us again tonight. Tommy, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
No problem. Good evening.
Hey, I want to go right away to the World Economic Forum, President Trump, talking about Europe, immigration, and all that. But first, tell me about the protest in your neck of the woods, in London. Did we not have the police just cracking down and clubbing people who are, from the video we saw, they were just out there literally not doing anything wrong, just verbally out there supporting the freedom fighters in Iran, and they start getting clubbed, right? Do I have that right?
You do have that right. And unfortunately now the freedom-loving Iranian community are realising what we, many Brits, have lived under when we've tried to protest issues around anything to do with Islamic jihad. Because what we're seeing is a police force that's controlled by Sadiq Khan. And unfortunately, Sadiq Khan doesn't stand on the side of freedom. So the mayor of London stands on the opposite side to those Iranian protesters. So the policing operations are usually placed against those people. We experienced that for years. In fact, in my negotiations now with the police force, since setting up the Unite the Kingdom movement, I've had sat and had conversations about how they've played us against each other for well over a decade. We've now found a way of working together, a way of not allowing their attempts, because at our last event, Unite the Kingdom event, the City of London, Sadiq Khan, attempted to withdraw our licence from setting up the PA systems and the speaker systems. Now, what that would have meant, and 2 days before, so 48, 72 hours before the event, he pulls the licenses. We then have an emergency meeting with the police. And what I say to them is, if we have no way of talking to our supporters and 500,000, million, whatever many people turn up, it's going to descend into anarchy, which is what the government, it's the Labour government, and what Sadiq Khan wanted. But the police agreed with us not to enforce that order. So there was an order placed by the local council to prevent us setting up our speaker system. The police, after sitting down, and I said, lads, they're going to try and make our supporters clash with your police officers. Now, your job and my job as an organiser is to maintain safety for the public. That's our job, nothing else. If you take that speaker system away, you know and I know it's going to cause anarchy. So the police actually went against all of their orders on that day. But what the Iranian protesters are realising is they haven't gone through the same education or schooling thing that I've gone through. I've done now 15 years of national demonstrations. I know how to negotiate, how the police will operate, the traps they will set in order to be allowed to come and attack your supporters like that. Wow. So unfortunately, when I watched it, I just see the Iranian protesters are getting on the end of something we were on the end of for well over a decade. Two-tier policing, attacks. They wouldn't be doing that if it was a pro-jihadi demonstration. The batons would never be out. If it was a pro-left demonstration, the batons are never out. That unfair treatment only goes for people who are on the side of freedom.
Yes. And of course, we're a little frustrated here because President Trump said help was on the way. And now we've got 12,000 to 15,000 to 20,000, depending on the numbers, dead, people being targeted, shot in the face, shot in the eyes. There's now reports that some of these folks were poisoned by the government to die a few days later. What are your thoughts? Are you as frustrated on this issue as many of us are, that the folks were told to stay in the street, to be out there, the help was on the way, and no help came?
My personal thoughts have been since the start of this is the immense bravery and courage shown by the people. And when you think about it, so I think about it and I look at the UK, people in the UK are scared of coming out on the street. I went to a hospital today, I interviewed some nurse, but other nurses were scared of they might lose their job. They all know things are wrong. They want to speak out, but they're scared to speak out. So in the UK, the British men and women are scared to speak out, and they're scared to take part in protests in Great Britain, where you might lose your job or you might get called a name. These brave people in Iran will get killed. They will get tortured. They will get butchered. They will lose their eyes. So, and they're on the streets. So yeah, I was expecting to see the Ayatollah have fallen by now. I was all over it. I just took a 5-day break with my son, went away for 5 days. So I tried to keep up as much as I could, but I lost a bit of flow with where it was at, and I'm catching up now back in the UK. But hugely disappointed that the help has not been there in the scale that I thought it would have been. I thought as the regime was toppling, because what it's given the regime an opportunity to do now is regroup, recruit, get their people in from Iraq, from all the other Islamist holes that surround that country, and flood the nation with foreign fighters to oppress the people who were bravely standing. I'm glad to see they are still standing, but yeah, I'd like to have seen more help, more support, and the Islamic regime of Iran targeted heavily by the West and the United States. That's what I personally would like to see to help the people in their fight for freedom.
let's switch to Davos. President Trump today, World Economic Forum. We played a lot of clips on radio/television today at 1 o'clock. Marvelous speech. Said so many things that I love right to their face. You know, that some of you guys down here in this area, you won't even look up. You won't look me in the eye. Canada, you wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for us. You know, we need the Iron Dome. We need Greenland. We're building our own Iron Dome. We can't have this mass immigration. We can't destroy the West. This solar and wind power, this is just ridiculous. I mean, he went after the Somalis in Minnesota, said these people have a little bit higher IQ than we thought they did to be able to carry off mass fraud like they did up there. So, you know, his speech was just quite frankly amazing. But the question is this: have we moved from the Great Reset to now the Trump reset? And are we going to move to more liberty and freedom? Or are we just going to see this move more toward the tech bros and technocracy and some of the companies he's working with here in America for a new form or a new order versus the old order? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think we've seen a revolution. A revolution has happened. We lost that. It's a revolution against freedom. It's a revolution of tyranny. It's a revolution of mass immigration in order to take our borders and destroy our culture, our nation, and weaken us. And I think what we're seeing now is the counter-revolution. It's well underway. It's well underway. So whilst you see those political leaders, whether it be Keir Starmer, whether it be Emmanuel Macron with his stupid sunglasses, whenever you see these leaders, behind those leaders is a whole new regime building. So the whole new populist revolutionary leadership of the future leaders of Europe, which are strong, brave, and have borders nationalists. So that's building. Trump knows that for our ability in Europe to sit and see the most powerful nation in the world and the most powerful leader in the world tell the European leaders, remember, every one of these leaders have been betraying our countries and the interests of our people. Every one of them. There isn't a single European country other than Hungary and Poland, probably, where their leaders have not been corrupted into this mass immigration replacement ideology of replacing European citizens with third world immigration, which is flooding our nations. So to see Donald Trump warn Europe and tell Europe, you are changing for the worse, you're not going to have a future left. It's great for us, but it's also, I'd say, it's very encouraging for the populist parties, the leaders. Remember, Viktor Orban, the gentleman like Viktor Orban, was literally on his own. He has literally been a lone voice on his own, fighting for the Christian future of Europe, trying to stop the hordes of immigration destroying his nation. And the European Union are fining and penalising him, I think £1 million a day, every day, for wanting to protect his country and his women from being raped by the open border mass immigration. But right now he has a friend, a very powerful friend, and not just he has a friend, but then now the French groups and the German groups, the AfD, all of these parties now have a very powerful friend who thinks the same as them, sees the same problems. He has totally helped shift the Overton window on discussions on mass deportations. You have ICE. Europe needs to create its own ICE organisation to go after these criminals, to go after these rapists, to go after these terrorists. The future word of our generation is going to be remigration. That's the future. It's going to be on the lips. But that was unthinkable. That word was unthinkable just 24 months ago. Unthinkable to be part of mainstream discussion, let alone politicians now talking about, even in the United Kingdom. So remigration, I think, will be the future. If we want to see a safe, prosperous, and a Europe that looks like Europe, then that's the only solution for us.
Well,
otherwise, we're simply going to be demographically replaced.
And here's what President Trump had to say today about Europe. Listen to this.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody and say I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way. That's in a very negative way. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction.
That's exactly what you just explained. I know you agree with that.
Do you know what's mad? I've just been to a town called Boston in the UK today to interview a nurse called Amy. She lost her job. She shared a video from me where I said, literally, word for word, what Donald Trump just said. If we don't change the direction of this country, it's going to be unrecognisable in a decade. For her sharing that comment, she got gross misconduct. She was fired from 15 years working in the National Health Service as a caring, loving nurse, saving lives. She lost her job for sharing that. Now, what we're seeing across the UK, this is part of the war on free speech, because there's Muslims within the NHS who have supported Hamas, gone to fight for ISIS, called for the destruction and obliteration of the state of Israel, denied the Holocaust. These are 4 separate cases where those Muslims didn't lose their jobs, but yet an English white working class nurse was sacked. And as she was told by her union, you're going to be used as an example. What is that example? That is the example. And when Keir Starmer sits in the Oval Office lying his pants off to Donald Trump about a great history of free speech, well, he wasn't lying. He said we have a history of free speech. He used the right words, a history, because we don't have free speech currently. People are terrorised. This lady lost her job, couldn't pay her bills, was driven to near the point of suicide for sharing me saying the future that our country's changing and it'll be unrecognisable. That's word for word, literally what the President of the United States just said. So we see so many cases like this where the British public are so scared of speaking about anything, and this is why. They know they bring in laws, because when corporations, mass corporations or institutions, government institutions, when you can lose your job for sharing something legitimate or legal. So that also there was a post shared, another lost her job for sharing a post of the costs of asylum seekers. So a factual post from the government website, and you lose your job for it. Now, this is the element of fear that is installed in the entire population to prevent them speaking, to prevent them sharing their. I also today, because this is a massive problem in the UK, whilst I was in the city of Boston interviewing this nurse, telling her story, getting a story ready and a campaign ready to fight the system for this lady. When I was there, I thought, let's stop into a public house, a British pub. Now, pubs and restaurants are the heartbeat of British working class culture. It's the heartbeat of the community. When I think about my activism in the English Defence League, we formed a mass movement across the country. We formed it from the pubs. Where do people come together to discuss politics, to discuss their disgust at what's happening in the pubs? 2,000 pubs are going to close this year. The government are making it impossible. They're upping the rates, they're upping the taxes. They're making it impossible intentionally to close down the community centre, the community hub that brings people together. Now, when you break down those hubs, which I've seen in Luton, because none of the pubs are left, when the Muslim community come in, there's no pubs left. And the pubs are gone, the community spirit's gone. You don't then see your neighbours, you don't see your community together. So I went into a pub today to speak to the community, to ask them what it would be like if this local pub that they're in was gone. And it would destroy many of their lives. It would break down their community spirit, and they wouldn't see each other. Now, this is what the big globalist plan, what they want. They want you isolated. They want you on your own. They want to control what you're saying online, but not just online. They don't want you to have the ability to say it to a group of people, hence closing down community centres, closing down public houses, making it impossible for these pubs to survive. It's a far greater plan that we're seeing, which is all about breaking community, breaking resistance, and breaking the ability for men or communities to come together to even discuss topics and conversations. It's definitely intentional. It's not unintentional, it's intentional. And do you know what the good thing was? As I asked these average people in this public house today, why do they think the government are upping the prices? Why do they think they're making it impossible for the public houses and the community hubs to stay alive? All of them said they don't want us talking. They want total control. They don't want us to have community centres or a centre for resistance where we can discuss their failures. They don't want us having these discussions. So everyone is awake to it. Now in the UK, something that I knew, that's the reasons I knew, but as I spoke to all these regular gents, regular women in this public house, all of them are of the same opinion. This is intentional to break down our community. That's what we're seeing. So what Donald Trump has just outlined and what he said and spoke about, you come to my town, you think you're in Karachi. You wouldn't think you're in Luton. 50% Pakistani, 45 mosques. It's unrecognisable. Do you know what? It's never coming back. America, wake the hell up. Because you see how quickly it happened in Minnesota. Do you see these little Somali towns where they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger? And the money's coming in from Qatar, the money's coming in from the Iranian regime. They're building bigger mosques, bigger centres, bigger control centres. And all of whilst that's going on, and in Islamic infiltration of the United States of America is happening, we're being attacked. Communities being attacked. The church is being attacked. Christianity is being attacked. Men are being attacked. Families are being attacked. All of it's happening at the same time. It's such an explosive situation we're heading towards. So, yeah, I think Donald Trump, again, for us standing saying that, helped shift the over window so much. We're so grateful to have a voice out of the United States that stands for us in Europe. He stands for us more than any European representative does.
Wow.
So it's good. And it's good. So
I don't know if I mentioned this to you in our last interview, Tommy. I've spent 36 years studying brainwashing, and I have a documentary series, part 1, part 2, working on now getting out part 3, the final part on brainwashing. And I don't know if you know this or not, but what you just described is one of the techniques of brainwashing. And what I used as kind of the foundation of my documentary was what happened to the American soldiers in the Korean War of the 1950s, in the Chinese Communist Party POW camps. And one of the things they did immediately was they figured out who the leaders were. They figured out who the Tommy Robinsons were, right? And you have the courage to organize. And anyone that had courage to organize and resist had to be moved away from the other American POWs. So if they found out you were an officer, well, that's obviously a red flag. If they found out you weren't even an officer, but you were religious, that was another red flag. So if you had any courage, any religious foundation at all to be a leader, then you had to be removed from the group of American POWs, and you were sent off to a reactionary camp. Do you know what percentage they had to remove from the group? Only 5%. They only had to remove 5%. And if they removed the 5% of those leaders, those American POW camp occupants, that 5% that were going to be leaders and resist and teach them how to lead, how to resist, create plans to escape, refute the propaganda they're being fed. Once those 5% were removed, the other 95% would go along. And when you cannot go into a pub or a group whole meeting and you as a leader teach them, this is propaganda, this is a lie, this is how we should organize to resist tyranny. Be strong, be courageous. When you do that, you're one of those leaders. And they only got to find 5% of you, remove you from the group, and the other 95% historically will go along. Does that resonate with you?
It resonates totally. The problem that I think they've got is where we're still standing and our voice is louder. Each time they've tried to crush Tommy Robinson, they've created another 100. So this was a lonely place. To discuss these politics 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago was a very lonely place. Now, everyone's discussing it. Now, so many people are coming forward and it's all like fashionable to now talk about mass immigration, to talk about these issues. There's so many new commentators, which is great. It's great. Do you know what we've just spent, Brannon? We've just spent weeks. So like I've been running and never stopped, really. So we took a few weeks now to stop to work on a 4-year vision. That 4-year vision, they've basically had a long march through the institutions. We need to reverse it. How do we reverse it? What's our plan? We've obviously got a cultural movement in the UK, which is Unite the Kingdom, which is about awakening the 20 million people that didn't vote. Keir Starmer was voted in off 9 million votes. 20 million working class people are that disillusioned in politics. They do not believe in it. They don't trust anyone, that they have not voted. 20 million people. If we awaken them, galvanise them, give them direction, give them something to believe in, give them back their sense of identity, then that is a power and direct them towards democracy. So we've been working on a 4-year vision of new media. We're going to build a mass new media of citizen journalists across the globe, bringing together the Tommy Robinsons and training the new Tommy Robinsons to go out there in a warfare against mass media and be the new media, be the truthful sources, do the investigations that they're not going to do, but bring all of these around across the globe under one umbrella. And then each country that you have these new media or these citizen journalists, they will then complement the populist political parties by being the source of information to give them their voice, but not just to give them their voice, but but also to go against the other political parties. So we've got a three-way prong, and we've just spent weeks and weeks and weeks working. Because, as I said, people say, what's the point? We had 1 million people, 2 million people, 3 million people. How many people you want to say on the 13th of September at our mass rally? We're planning another one on May 16th. But unless you have a reason for those rallies, what is it we're trying to do? The cultural movement's going to concentrate on the celebrationary days. Do you know next year, 2027, is 1100-year history of the birth of England? Now, the government will do nothing for that. I probably don't think, but we're going to take it away from the government each time now. We will hold the biggest celebration. Do you know next Christmas already? We're planning it. Put Christ back into Christmas. We have Square. I believe Britain will become a place that people come all over Europe to put Christ back into Christmas, to give us back our belief, to concentrate on our historical days, our important days, and our cultural days. But that, aligned with the new media, shows like yourself, Brannon, the uncontrollable shows and the uncontrollable speakers who are not controlled by mass corporations or governments, then there's a war coming. And we want to fight that war as best possible. So, as I said, we've just been working on a vision, looking at all of these things. Because exactly what you're talking about is what they've attempted through their indoctrination, through the education system, through the infiltration of the education system. 90% of professors at universities in the UK are far left. 90%. That's not by mistake. Whilst we were sleeping, they were infiltrating. Whilst we were out concentrating on ourselves, they were concentrating on the future. And everyone knows, get into the minds of the next generation. The only hope we have is that the next generation or youth usually rebel. I think we're seeing, I had some encouragement coming out of France when I looked at the way that 18 to 24-year-olds were voting. And with the indoctrination that we're all facing to feel guilt for who we are, I'd have thought they'd be voting on the far left, but they weren't. They were going for Marine Le Pen. So hopefully, not hopefully, there's a mass resistance coming. I'm glad Donald Trump's telling Europe what time it is, and all that can do is give more confidence to Europeans and give more confidence to those political parties to feel braver, to feel more courageous, just to stand by their principled decisions and their policies, which are going to cause upset because it's about deporting millions of people because they need to be deported. They cannot be here any longer. Many of them outstayed their welcome. We need to remember that they come here as guests. These people is not their nation. They have Pakistan to go to. If everything goes wrong, we have nowhere to run to. This is our land. They can go back to Pakistan. They can go back to Syria. You know what? In Germany, where you brought in 1 million Syrians who are raping, pillaging, murdering, beheading, killing, torturing, terrorism, jihad, all these crimes coming out of that community that Angela Merkel let down the borders in 2015, well, the war's over, darling. Yeah, the war's over. Time to leave. For many of you, it's time to go. So I think, but you're going to see that scream, that whisper of remigration. It's going to become some roar coming out of Europe in the coming years. I'm glad to see that European leaders, political parties are organising themselves. I know our next event is Unite the Kingdom, Unite the West. I'm travelling Europe this week, meeting with European leaders, politicians to discuss how we can work together. I think every country doesn't just need a political party. You need a cultural movement. We all need a cultural movement. We are having a cultural revolution in Britain, but we need that cultural movement also needs to work alongside a political party.
I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you know that in his speech today, the World Economic Forum, President Trump specifically mentioned the need, what you just talked about, the need for the conservative alternative media. He mentioned that in his speech today. So I don't know if you know that or not, but you're already on one of the talking points of the president, the need for an honest media to hold the government and world leaders accountable.
I didn't know. I haven't had a chance. I've been out interviewing all day, and I've just got back, had dinner with my kids. So I'm going to sit down. I know my team have took snippets of it and put on my X account, but I haven't watched it in its entirety.
Well, here's one clip. Here's one clip on immigration by the president today. Here we go.
The situation in Minnesota reminds us that the West cannot mass import foreign cultures which have failed to ever build a successful society of their own. I mean, we're taking people from Somalia, and Somalia is it's not a nation. Got no government, got no police, got no military, got no nothing. And then we have this fake congressperson who they just reported is worth $30 million. You believe this? Ilhan Omar, talking about the Constitution provides me. She comes from a country that's not a country, and she's telling us how to run America. Not going to get away with it much longer, let me tell you.
And by the way, we're now hearing that the mayor of Minneapolis, the attorney general of Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota, they have received subpoenas for a grand jury, Tommy.
Come on. This is what I've been waiting for. That's what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for it. Well, what about the election? What about the election frauds? When are they getting arrested? When are we going to see the arrests? When are we going to see the trials? That's what I've been waiting for. And you know what? I think, America, you've had a real light bulb moment here with Minnesota, with the Somalian community, because that could have gone unnoticed. And many Americans will carry on moving on, and another 10 years will go with Islamic immigration, all the fraud. You can see how the Democrat Party, because let's not pretend these below IQ clowns in Somalia have orchestrated this multi-billion-pound fraud on their own. Yeah, they're doing it hand in hand with the Democrat Party to benefit the Democrat Party. They've turned a blind eye. They've allowed it or been in bed with it and facilitated it. All the money will probably go to Somalia, comes back into the Democrat Party in some way or form. Yeah? As we just heard, Ilhan Omar is now worth 30 million. How? What's going on? So I'd love to see arrests need to be made, prosecutions need to be made. But the best thing about this, America's had a big wake-up call. You've got to see what one town governed due to Islamic immigration, where you've got to see that. You see in the UK, the Labour Party and politicians turned a blind eye to the rape. They turned a blind eye to all these crimes, so long as they kept the vote. Well, that's what you've now witnessed. What will they turn their blind eye to? Billions and billions in fraud because they get the continued vote, the loyalty of that community. They'll bring in another 100,000, another 100,000. You see your swing states. In the swing states in the United States, there will be no swing states, because if you look at the immigration into the United States with the open border, it went up 700% in the swing states. They were importing people into the swing states to make sure that never again is there a swing state.
That's right.
It's gone. Once those communities come in, you see the Islamic community, if they concentrate on the swing states, they will hold so much power. They'll have the Republicans and the Democrats, because parties just want power, and that's what they need. Yeah, they'll have them both over a barrel.
And that's what they've done in Michigan. They've done that in Michigan, and they've done that in Minnesota, and now they're targeting my state of Tennessee. They're, and of course they're targeting now the traditionally conservative states like Tennessee. So if they can grab Tennessee and in Florida, they're targeting Texas, they're targeting Dallas, Houston. I mean, Texas and Tennessee. I mean, those are about as conservative as you can get in America. And they're targeting those with population to flip those states. You know how many electoral college votes Texas has? And apparently they're buying up a lot of influence, because they have Republicans in Texas bending over backwards, even declaring, Pakistani Day through the legislature and all kinds of other garbage. They're trying to take over and are building more mosques in the state of Texas than you can swing a dead pig and hit. I mean, can you imagine?
I know. I saw what's happening in Texas. I saw the growth in the mosques. But what people need to realize is the Republican Party and the Democrat Party will succumb to them. If that group can swing the power, if that group can guarantee the vote, which they will, you think you're organised. They organise themselves in a military fashion. When it comes to voting, they will use democracy. I always say it. They will use democracy to end democracy. Wake up, America. Stop.
Well, isn't that what the Muslim Brotherhood? Isn't that what the Muslim Brotherhood explanatory memorandum said? It was found in the 80 banker boxes of the cultural jihadi dude of Muslim Brotherhood outside of Northern Virginia, outside of D.C. in Northern Virginia. He said that Muslim Brotherhood explanatory memorandum, we will get Americans to destroy their own house with their own hands. In other words, we will use their liberties and their freedoms to destroy them. And we will use interfaith dialogue, which Syed Katoub, one of the leading scholars of the Muslim Brotherhood, said is a one-way bridge to bring the non-Muslim to our side, not the other way around. So we'll use religion, we'll use the voting system, we'll use free speech, and we'll use ignorant Americans that we brainwash, making ourselves the victim through Islamophobia and then hate crime laws. And we'll get them to push our agenda and destroy their own house with their own hands. That's what they said they do. And we have Americans doing it for them.
No, they're succeeding. They're succeeding in it. Now, what benefit is Islamic immigration to the United States of America? Where's the benefit?
None.
I asked this. What benefit has Pakistani immigration brought into the UK? None. No benefit. What benefit has Afghani immigration, Somali immigration, Iraqi immigration, Syria. What benefit has any of it brought? When it's great that you were able to see this, the Somalian work rate, see how many of them are on benefits, how many of them 10 years later still don't speak English. It's great you can see that because you can mirror it across America. And then you need a brave leader who's just going to say, enough's enough. Stop Islamic immigration. It doesn't work. You're mixing oil and water and you're heading somewhere very dangerous. And the fact that you can look at the rest of Europe, and Donald Trump is looking, and see the mess we're in, see the destruction of our capital cities, the loss of them. London is now 33% white British, white English. There's no one left. It's gone. We've lost our capital city. The most important capital city in the world is gone. There's no English people there anymore. It's taken over. Not for the better. Freedom's disappeared. Sharia's growing. All of these things. So, yeah, I think that the whole thing happening with Somali community is great. Nick Shirley, well done, son. It's great to see. And again, citizen journalist. Nick Shirley, independent journalist, independent media, brought this to the world's attention. Where was CNN? Where are all the big broadcasters in investigating this and finding this and exposing this? You can no longer rely on any of them. They're all corrupted. They're all part of it. They're all part of it. So we need to build a new army, an army of citizen journalists, an army. So that's what we're going to build. Help them, train them. They need support and really take the fight to them.
Take a look at this. This is from my 2018 documentary, Sabotage. This is from, I think, 1989, C-SPAN, 1989, here in America. This is a Muslim Brotherhood proponent. Listen to what she said in 1989 from my 2018 documentary, Sabotage.
Process of making America Muslim, all of America Muslim, then we have to have some actual short-range goals. We do not want to melt into American society and disappear. We want to go into American society with Islamic ideals and revamp their thinking. We want to revamp them. We want to turn them into Muslim individuals.
That we, when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House.
We have to help those people in their causes because their causes are our causes. Black Lives Matter is our matter. Black Lives Matter is our campaign.
Let's recognize that we are the community that staged a revolution across the world. If we could do that, why can't we have that revolution in America?
So what are the... There you go, my 2018 documentary. They're here. We're not here to assimilate. We're here to turn them into Muslims. They said it in 1989, right here in America.
I think that's insane that you had all of that in 1989, that you were publicising and showing the world that in 1989. I came to this fight late through what I saw in my hometown. But how much more do we have to hear from them? This isn't me giving this opinion. It's not you. They're openly telling everyone. How is CARE? How is it allowed to have such power, such influence, when back in 1989, you can hear what they're saying? We knew they're a proponent of the Muslim Brotherhood. We know the plans of the Muslim Brotherhood for the West. Yet here they are, still operating, still powerful, still influential, still in the height of the American establishment. They were up, hopefully not now with Trump, but they were. They had mass power for the last decade. Why and how? How has there been no courage enough to shut down these groups, to come down like a ton of bricks on them? They are trying to overthrow democracy and replace it with a totalitarian Islamic Sharia-driven ideology. So how is it not? It's when I look at it all, I just think, how have they been allowed to do this? You couldn't go to Saudi Arabia and start doing this. You couldn't go to Qatar and start doing this. No one could go to Qatar and start planning the overthrow of their Sharia hellhole with democracy. No one can start opening centres and infiltrating government and getting positions of power within their legislation or their power structure and start saying, we're going to change it. We're going to change you all to be Christian. We're going to do this. Well, how are they allowed to do this in our countries? As they say, they will use our freedoms against us. They will use our beliefs of free speech, of equality. They'll use it all against us until it gets to the point where when it flips, they're going to give us the rights and freedoms. Do you think we're going to have protected rights? Do you think now in the UK where we're a minority, like in my hometown, white English or minority, do you think we've got the protected rights and the protection that they had? Do you think these organisations and these groups within every school and government and institution and body that was set up for diversity, the DEI, all these groups are set up for minority rights, do you think they're there protecting our rights? Do you think they're defending us? It only works one way. Hate crime legislation brought in was to silence you, the white man. No one else. It was to silence us. That's it. It doesn't, as I've just shown today with the white English nurse in a hospital in the UK, she's lost her job. The Hamas supporter didn't lose his job. Mohammed didn't lose his job. Ali didn't lose his job. None of them terrorist supporters lost their job. They're all protected because the minority groups all jumped to their defence. That we're funding, all the taxpayers' money funding these organisations, this representation that's overrepresented for them to defend them and to block any attempts to enforce any legislation or rule upon them. Whereas us, we're just left on our own. Free fall. We're attacked, we lose our jobs, we can't stand up, we can't fight, we're deemed racist, the whole word racist is thrown against us, reputation's destroyed, everything gone. So yeah, I think that I'm shocked to see that you were covering that in 1989, and it's shocking to see now.
And just to be accurate, that clip is from 1989. I put it in my documentary in 2018. But we have been covering this. We have been covering this long before 2018, because remember, we had a gunman from Saudi Arabia come into our conference in April of 2017, which because I was already talking about this stuff, but we got even more aggressive. But yes, we've been talking about this a very long time. Our team has guys that speak Arabic, Farsi, so that we can keep on this. But one reason they've made inroads here in America is they apparently are buying their way in. And they're highly organized. I don't know if you know this. I'll give you another clip from my documentary in 2018, Sabotage. They're making their way into even the FBI. They've made their way into our FBI. Watch this.
Mueller, in 2008, presented a director's award to senior Muslim Brotherhood jurist Imam Yaha Hindi. But in 2016, then FBI Director James Comey presented an award to Jihad Imam Mohammed Majid. So we have two FBI directors giving two awards to known jihadis. Can you tell me, is this factual?
What I can tell you is the leadership of the FBI is either complicit or doesn't have a clue. And they don't have an excuse to not have a clue. And whatever the answer is there, the result is the same for the American citizen. The first individual, Aharon Levarko, he is a member of the FEED Council of North America, which, by the way, is still an unindicted co-conspirator of the Holy Land Foundation trial, which is, by the way, the largest successfully prosecuted terror financing trial in the history of the United States. And that's the United States government saying that, not me. And the second individual was vice president and then president of ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, which is, by the way, still an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial, which is the largest terror financing trial ever successfully prosecuted in the United States. And, by the way, as recently as 2017, Mr. Abate of the FBI was at Al-Hijra Mosque, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. in Virginia, which that mosque, by the way, has at least 20 known jihadis or jihadi financiers or related to jihadis who are either on their board or staff members there or have come from that mosque, such as Nadal Hassan, and gone to Fort Hood and performed jihadi. And they were there in January, the FBI was there in January of 2017 doing outreach and asking for Al-Hijra Mosque to help in diversity as we hire new FBI agents and as they reach out to the Muslim community.
I want to introduce Mr. Paul Abate. He is soon to be Executive Assistant Director at the FBI headquarters downtown and currently the Director in charge at the FBI Washington Field Office. He wanted to offer a few words of support for our community. Give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you, Colin, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to say, first and foremost, it's an honor and a privilege to be invited and to join you here today. Imam Johari is a hard, challenging act to follow. Wow. I get more than 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I feel like
if people start walking away, you'll know what happened.
I feel like it's a competition here. No. Greetings. Thank you for having us here today. I just wanted to say a few words. First of all, we are from the FBI Washington Field Office. I have 2 messages for you today. The first is about outreach and partnership. I cannot tell you how grateful we are, Imam, for the partnership that we share with you for many years here. We need exceptional people of all backgrounds, of all origins in our organization to make it the very best that we can be. So I'm reaching out to all of you here today with that message as well. Any of you, family members, friends, associates from your community who have an interest in doing the type of work that we do and keeping this nation and our community safe, please refer them to us. We're doing a lot of hiring in the FBI now, and we need you.
Wow, Tommy, that's, and this, by the way, just so you, I guess we understand your response now. That's all I need. Do you understand, Tommy, that what we're being told is this FBI leadership, the guts of it has not been overturned. Some people have been fired, but it basically in the DOJ, the FBI, President Trump's team still has not cleaned out these kind of characters. This guy, by the way, rose after that to basically being the guy that was number 2 at the FBI under Biden, who was the one running the FBI day to day. That's what we were told. We saw him under questioning by Congress. But this is how bad it is. It's in our sheriff departments. It's in our police departments. They have stopped a lot of the experts from coming in and training on Islam. They've given over to interfaith dialogue.
You're in trouble.
We're losing fast, Tommy, over here. We're losing.
When I just watched that, that's like, he might as well just be pulling up a white flag. Just, boom, we give up, we surrender to you. Yeah? Now, it would take the police intelligence services, 5 minutes on a computer to look, to find out the intelligence on that mosque, on that imam, on that centre. So can it be saying that they're naive? It can't be. It's not that they're naive. It's that they're surrendering. It's that they're literally giving in to them. Now, the problem is what every government agency should have. It should have an organisation within it whose job it is, the same way probably the Americans have to combat Chinese infiltration, Chinese spies. Well, Islam needs to be looked at in the same way. If it's infiltrating, where it's going, what it's doing, its power structure, its influence, its objectives, their plans. And every agency should be looking at it. So there's no way police should be sharing any platform in that mosque with those jihadis. Yeah? But I'm shocked to just seeing what I've seen, because that's exactly what we see here. In fact, on my second documentary, The Rape of Britain, episode 2 or 3, if you watch this, we go and I look at the grooming gangs and all of the rape gangs, and I find a picture of the police that they take outside of a mosque. And they're all standing there having these pictures taken. They look like hostage situations, but a bit like that situation you've just seen then, where the police are stood there with these big bearded Muslims, and they're all having their photo taken for diversity. Now, I tried to find similar pictures for the Sikh temple. Like, I doubt there's a video of the police, the FBI, in a Sikh temple doing the same as what they're doing in that mosque. But I tried to find the Sikh temple, couldn't find it. And when I looked at the picture and I got all the men, we done an in-depth investigation into the rape gangs. The main man who was controlling the rape gangs from the Pakistani Muslim community was stood here. The police officer whose job it was to stop sexual exploitation and rape gangs was stood next to him as they're having a photo taken for diversity. Now, the photo taken, the narrative and the agenda that they're pushing for diversity that we've just seen then, all of this is more important than stopping children being raped. Because there's no way that Telford Police, which was my documentary that we looked at, the same as the FBI in that video you've just seen, there's no way they don't know what these buildings are about. There's no way their intelligence doesn't tell them who these men are, what their thoughts are, what groups they're part of, who they're funding, what their mindset is. There's no way they don't know. They do know. They're just surrendering because they don't know what to do. And other influences or other agendas, other ideologies have infiltrated the systems, which are far more important than stopping the crime or standing up for the American people. And that is, whether it be DEI, we've seen it in the UK, political correctness, block voting, power, trying to please the Islamic community, trying to keep them happy so they don't blow us up, kill us or rape us. You know, we'll just keep giving them what they want. No, that's not how you deal with fascists. It's not how you deal with violent extremists. You don't just keep surrendering. At some point, you're going to have to stand up or you're going to lose your nation.
Indeed. No, don't apologize. Don't apologize. All right, we're inviting you. We're going to send you an email. We are officially inviting you to come to America, come into our studio, spend a few hours with us, you know, give you an honorarium, cover some of your airfare from wherever you're going to be in the U.S. out speaking, and some of your lodging and your expenses. But we would love to have you come into our studio and spend a few hours. So how is the tour to America coming, the plans?
My visa's just gone in again. I've just put my visa in again now. I've got a meeting with the lawyers next week because the police held off. I needed an ACRO form and the police kept blocking it. So my visa application is as a journalist. I want to come to the United States as a journalist. I want to cover so many subjects. I also want to warn the United States. I've lived it. I have lived it. Coming from a British person, I'm going to tell you this is how it's going to happen. This is what they're going to do. This is how the Democrats will surrender. Not just the Democrats, though. You have to keep your eye on your own Republicans. You have to clear out the weak, because you've got to have brave leaders to confront this problem. This is going to be the battle of our generation. I wouldn't say it's going to be, people think it's going to be China. People think no, it's not. It's going to be the enemy within. They're here. They're here and they're part of a worldwide plan for total domination and subjugation of us.
And if pastors if pastors and Christians don't want to get involved, this is what awaits them.
That's what awaits them. And what a brave individual, what a brave man, what a fearless man. Do we think for 1 second that if that man was not white, if he was a black or brown Muslim who refused to use they then pronouns, that's what he was in jail for. He spent 580 days in jail so far, that fearless man, because of his Christian belief. If he was black or brown and Muslim, do we think he'd have those handcuffs on him? He wouldn't. The same way we have a two-tier policing system, two-tier judiciary, two-tier everything. Everything's two-tier. Same way as in Minnesota. Do you think if that was white Americans, do you think they could have just got away with that billions and billions and billions in fraud, flying out of the airport with hundreds of millions of pounds in cash without getting asked any questions? It's like a protected group. They're protected in every way, protected from criticism, protected from real investigation, protected. And when they have deep friends with deep pockets, Qataris especially, Qatar are a massive problem for all of us. I know lots of people are working with them and governments are working with them and they buy their ways through our capital city. They own more in my capital city than Prince Charles, the King. So they're bought into the system. They're bought the politicians. But they are responsible for the Islamization of Europe. Billions of pounds have come out of Qatar to fund changing the face of Europe forever. So they're an enemy to Europeans. Qatar is an enemy to freedom, to America, to Western civilization, and they need to be viewed as such and recognized as such.
Just a couple more minutes with you. President Trump is making issue of the white genocide in South Africa. Here we go.
Genocide in South Africa, and are you willing to engage with the South African government?
Well, no, what's happening in South Africa is terrible. It's a terrible situation. What they're doing to people, a certain group of people, is unbelievable. You wouldn't think it could happen today.
What would it make you believe that there is no white genocide, Mr. President, in South Africa?
Well, we have seen the numbers, we've seen the records, and it is taking place. Mr. President, it's got to be stopped.
That was also in our documentary, is either Sabotage or Siege, the white crosses of all the white farmers by the black communists that will take over their homes, keep them alive and torture them for days, skin them alive, burn them, use power drills on them, rape their wives, and then kill them and lay a Bible on their body to mark that they have just murdered and tortured a capitalist and a Christian. You know, the Frankfurt School came to America here in 1933 at the invitation of John Dewey, the father of modern education, a secular humanist who helped start the American Civil Liberties Union, by the way, with Roger Baldwin, also a communist. And they said that they were going to go after the capitalist and the Christian. That the source of all suffering and oppression, they said, was capitalism and Christianity. South Africa should be a model to the world. And I got another report today by my friend Pamela Geller, another report today of the number of Christians being murdered by Islamists. The latest, Islam in Africa. Here's the headline. Whoop, let me go back. Muslims storm another church service, kidnap 172 Christians in Nigeria as media and leftists deny the genocide. So they're going after not just whites. They go after anyone, even of a darker pigmentation, because at the end of the day, the big issue for them is Christianity or Judaism. Closing comments, and then tell us about your event coming up in May.
Closing comments are, the world remains silent. Where's the media? Where's the hysteria and the outrage that they'd hold if this was happening to anyone else that wasn't Christian and wasn't white? So, yeah, it's disappointing. I think what's happened, do you know what? Do you know my first ever demonstration with the English Defence League? First ever, 2009. We held up placards that said, Nigerian Christians, we stand with you against jihad. Wow. Because as I started going down my rabbit hole, as I started looking into what was happening, remember the English Defence League was branded some big far-right racist group. It's insane. As I started looking at it, I found that 5 Christian churches were blown up on Christmas Day in Nigeria, didn't even make the news. If a mosque window gets smashed, it's world news. Literally. It's world bloody news. So the hypocrisy in it, my closing comments are, America, wake up, because the problem's there. It's been imported, Biden, and they were very quick, and there was a race to get as many as they could into your borders. Those people will demographically replace you at a birth rate that you will not be able to fight against. That's what we've seen. So you do need ICE, you do need deportations, you do need to get back your country, as do we. May 16th is our date for, whatever you want to call it, revolution. It's going to be the date of British resistance. It's going to be May 16th, central London, unite the kingdom, unite the West. We're going to bring millions into our capital city. We're refusing to leave. We're going to have an event against our government. We're running out of time in Great Britain. We run out of time. The only bonus I take, guys and girls, is that my public, the British public, are now awake. I felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall for a decade. No one was listening. No one wanted to listen. Things have changed. The country's awake. People are awake. Many of them are lost. They want you to feel isolated. They want you to feel alone. They want you to feel helpless. We're not helpless. The power is with the people. That's our movement, by the people, for the people. That's our media brand, by the people, for the people. And on the 16th of May, you will see the British public roar. The whole world is going to watch. Please come over, Brannon. Come over and do a show. Come over as a guest and experience the feeling that we experience at each one of these events, that something huge is happening here. A resistance, a growth. This moment will be looked upon in history as the fight back by the British public.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the time tonight. And we look forward. We're going to pray that your paperwork and visa and everything can get worked out, and that maybe just in a few weeks, we'll have you sitting here at the news desk and do a couple good hours with our audience, take phone calls, the whole 9 yards live. Tommy, as always, thank you for what you're doing. 10 years, and now it's paying off, my friend. Thank you for being a leader.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. God bless.
And follow him here, folks, on X. Here's his information right there. There he is. At T Robinson New Era. At T Robinson New Era. And then you can find all the other ways to support him, his books, and direct contact. Tommy Robinson checking in tonight. We'll be right back. Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. worldviewtalk.com or 1-866-738-3224. All right, welcome back. Are we keeping you awake? Joining me now is Melissa Howse and Dolly Howse. All right, good girl, Dolly. You wanted to say hello to everybody, didn't you? All right, good girl. All right, Melissa's first appearance for 2026, Melissa. Thanks for coming to the studio. Let's talk real quick before we get on with our show here about the great products making 2026 for those who haven't started the year they start. Bella Grace and or Numi, Gatatana, and Get Healthy. Let's talk about it. Which one you want to talk about first? Bella Grace?
Sure, we'll talk about Bella Grace first.
All right.
Well, you know, I absolutely love the elixir, and I feel like it's made us so much healthier. Don't you agree?
I 100% agree. Look at my great hair growth. No cracked, bleeding hands. Haven't taken a Pepsid since December 2023. That's my testimonial.
Right. And I mean, my hair, I have to get it cut all the time. My skin is just better.
Yep.
Not, my hands don't get dry like they did. My face doesn't get as dry. I feel better. I feel more, I have a lot more energy. I know that. And I mean, all the ingredients in it, which we've talked about numerous times, the antioxidants and the cat's claw and the astaxanthin, the astaxanthin is an extremely strong antioxidant. And so I love that about the elixir.
Over 100 clinical trials. We're over 100 now.
Right.
And then, of course, the Bella Melts. This
That's
is
kind of a new product that's
doubled the size of the company now because so many people are getting great results. Tell us about the Bella Melts.
Well, the Bella Melts actually activate your own GLP, where a lot of people are wanting to take these kind of products, but they have to go and get shots and different things like that. And there's
consequences.
There's a lot of negative side effects to those. But the Bella Melt is actually natural, and it just helps balance your hunger hormones. It is great for your heart health. It's great for maintaining healthy blood pressure. And you can take 1 to 3 a day. But I notice when I have taken them, it really does satisfy my hunger. And like I said, it's all natural, unlike so many of these other products that have so many side effects. I think everything that's in this is natural, and it's good for your heart. I mean, there's just so many great things about this product.
Metabolic health. NAD.
Right. And NAD.
We love NAD.
NAD is incredible.
Weight management. Stimulates your body's own natural GLP-1, vitamins and minerals. So Bella Melt, this is, like I said, doubled the size of the company.
I believe it has. And it's really helped a lot of people. I know a lot of people have lost a lot of weight. I just took 1 a day for a short period of time. And you
because you didn't know you could do 3 or 4 a day. So just doing 1 a day, you lost 4 pounds in 1 week.
Right. Yes.
3 pounds, 4 pounds. Let's talk real quick about the skincare. There goes your phone, which it does 24/7.
I know.
Let's talk. She does customer support and service. Let's go to the skincare you love at melissahousebg.com.
Yes, Bella Grace's skincare is amazing. I absolutely love it. It's great to keep your skin and your face. The moisture that it keeps in your skin is amazing. I've noticed fine lines and wrinkles have gotten a lot less noticeable. And I believe that's elixir too, that combined with elixir and, using the skincare is just, I love it.
Now, you stopped using the skincare for a while. What happened?
I noticed my skin definitely wasn't the moisture wasn't there. And I noticed kind of the shine that I had in my skin that I didn't used to have before I started using the Bella Grace products, kind of went away. And my hands were more dry because I used the lotion, in my hands and my legs. And it's an amazing product as far as, especially this time of year when you have dry skin. When I stopped using it, the dry skin came back immediately. And
so you're back on it.
I'm back on it and I love it.
Now let's talk about 2 more real quick. Gatatana. We take our Gatatana every day, the green drink, the phytoplankton, half a scoop for Dolly.
And they say it's one of the most powerful superfoods that you can eat.
One of the most powerful superfoods you can drink.
Right. And it feeds the whole ocean. So
if whales can get the nutrition they need from it,
it supports the whole.
Imagine what it does for us, right?
It supports the whole ecosystem of the ocean. And it gives you energy. It's incredible for your cellular health, overall vitality. It's great for immune support. I know since we started doing the Gatatana and the elixir and Numi, we don't get sick with. I don't want to brag, but we haven't really caught as many bugs that go around like we used to. I think they all are, just even taking one, I think all of them are great antioxidants.
And they boost our immune system.
Right.
Right.
They really do. And they help fight all the free radicals out there and help fight, long-term COVID. I think the Gatatana also really is good for anti-aging.
And it's curbed our appetite too, that in itself.
Right. It's a natural detox. I mean, there's so many wonderful benefits.
And all these things she's talking about are at
Gatatana.
melissahousegpa.com on Gatatana, melissahousegpa.com. Finally, let's go to Numi.
Numi is glutathione, and everybody has to have glutathione in order to live. I mean, without it, you can't survive. And as we age, it naturally decreases in our body. And so this product is, they say, which I believe is more powerful than even the IVs, which are extremely expensive.
And they supposed to get broken down when you do an IV, whereas with this, you get it in its totality without breaking down.
Right.
Plus, an IV is going to be what, $90 to $150, depending where you go, right?
Yeah, I think they're at least that. But I know when I feel something coming on, I will swish with the Numi. And almost every time, if I swish 2 to 3 times, a day, I've been able to stop, the bug from turning into anything too severe.
You already are swishing at least once a day with this.
Right. But if I feel a bug coming on, I will swish 2 or 3 times a day. And it's really, really helped my overall immune support.
I know I was talking
Support.
about that earlier tonight, that if we feel like we feel we have a sore throat and we're like, oh, I feel like I'm coming down with something, we might swish 3 or 4 times a day. I've put it on my desk, sometimes swish every hour on the hour.
Right. If you feel
5 or 6
a little
times a day.
cold or, anything really coming on, that's what I do. And it's really, really helped from it turning into anything, full blown for me.
And I do think you mentioned a while ago, the power of these 3 together. They're great products individually.
I mean, you can take them individually. I know
the power of the
Gatatana
3.
is really, really good for headaches. So people that suffer with headaches, I know migraines especially.
And that was the guy that developed it. He was having migraines every day. And he started taking the Gatatana.
And I know with the Gatatana, it gives you a lot of energy. So I've noticed after I drink the Gatatana, I do feel like I have more energy. And it also just makes you feel better if you haven't been able to eat as healthy as you would like that day. It's so good for you, and it's full of plant cells. So it's kind of
90 billion plant cells,
Right.
the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells in every scoop.
So if you weren't able to get all the fruits and vegetables that you'd like that day, it's a great way to replace those in your diet if you're not able to, if you're busy and you're not able to get all that you would like, intake all that you would like. So,
And by the way,
highly,
before we conclude, tell us some of the testimonies to hear people talk about that take this stuff.
I mean, I get so many testimonials on a routine
When you're talking
basis.
to these people on the phone.
With Elixir, I hear mainly, I hear a lot of different things, but a lot of people with joint problems where they're knee issues, hip issues, and they're able to move around a lot more without as much pain. And I've had a few people tell me they were barely able to even walk around a store, and now they're able to walk around and not have the pain they used to.
Because the inflammation goes down.
Right.
Right?
Eye health, I know, is really good with Elixir. People that have had some eye issues, they've seen benefits from in that area. There's just so many different surgery. People that have had surgery, recovery from surgery seems to be better. You can go faster, and what else? There's so many different things that I'm probably missing a lot of it.
Oh, we are
but-
missing a lot because you're always telling these stories of what people are saying. Some lady
Right.
was supposed to have surgery on her finger, couldn't bend her finger. She got on the
Right. It's a lot of inflammation
Yeah.
and joint issues.
joint issues that get
I
corrected.
hear. And I do hear headaches, overall more energy, just overall feeling better and not getting sick as much as they used to. I hear that a lot from all 3 of the products. And I have heard from a couple people with Gatatana that suffered with migraines that has helped their migraines and their headaches improve. So, and I know with the glutathione, the Numi, I've heard from numerous people that they also have been able to fight off bugs or different things. And when
And their thinking and their clarity.
Right.
It's helped them neurologically.
And if you go on the website, there's different glutathiones. There's a one that has glutathione with more of a brain booster, and that's the orange bottle. And that helps really with clarity. And, if you're worried about that, I would suggest looking at the orange bottle.
And I like the fact that the studies show glutathione can help remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Because I don't think anyone wants to get Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's, do we?
No. And I know a lot of people, COVID's still around, and
Mm-hmm.
it helps fight those free radicals and the spike proteins. I know a lot of people that have issues with long-term COVID have seen improvement. A family member of mine has been taking the glutathione for different, more, what would you call, how would you describe his?
Oh, like a Bell's palsy type thing?
Yeah, is that type of thing. And numbness in some of his
Feet and stuff.
extremities, his feet.
It has helped him.
Yes, the glutathione has definitely helped. So
That's right. All right.
There's so many wonderful benefits.
Start out
for-
2026 getting healthy, staying healthy, boosting your immune system.
There's nothing more important than your
No,
health. If you
it
don't
sure
have your
isn't.
health, then so we try and provide really good products that we take ourselves that you can benefit from as well. So,
And we have a lot of people that will pitch products to us, but if it doesn't,
we only pitch the products that we personally
That's right.
take that we feel like help us. And all three of these products we take
and lots of
daily.
science behind them and
Right.
clinical trials.
And
Yep.
I mean, we've researched them quite a bit before we take them. And with all the customer
Customer service.
the
the
testimonials. All the testimonials we get is really powerful as well. And that's one reason why we keep promoting them, because we hear from people on a regular basis how much that they are being helped as well, which makes us feel good.
Absolutely. Great job, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right, Melissa's first appearance. We got to do another house to house, but we've
We
been
do.
so busy,
I
we haven't
know.
had time
It's been
to.
crazy.
We didn't even get a Christmas house to house in this year because we were so busy. But that's a
We'll
good
have
thing.
to do a spring one or
Yeah, we'll have
something
to do
soon.
for Resurrection Weekend and Sunday.
Yes.
But we're just so busy because the network's growing so much. Melissa spends hours every day doing customer support, donor relations. So it's very difficult because we're just doing our best to keep our heads above water because the network is growing so fast. But one reason it's growing, folks, is because you are supporting us while you support your health with these great products Melissa's talking about, which allows us to keep pushing out free programming. So you're saying, get back to the programming. Okay, we will right now. But you have to understand, if it wasn't for Numi, Gatatana, and Bella Grace, I can promise you, we would not be able to push out all the programming. And a lot of it, instead of being free, most of it would have to go behind a paywall. So I cannot tell you the importance of our foundation and Bella Grace and Numi and Gatatana. The revenue
And these
we
products
generate,
will help you feel
and they
better.
will help you.
Yeah, they will. Like, we're not pushing them just to,
No. 'Cause we
to
take
support the network, but we just feel like they will help people's health as well. They really will.
So it's accomplishing two things. They're
Right.
supporting their health, we believe, and us at the same time, which is why we take all three of these every day.
Exactly. Yes.
So again, this is so important at so many levels that we try. You notice we don't try to push just a gazillion different products because we're interested in quality, not quantity. All right. We would rather push 2 or 3 really good health products than to push 15
And
different
since
ones.
these are the ones that we have helped
Personally
us so
take.
much, yes, we can't find anything else to compare. So,
Yep. So we haven't added to our lineup because so far we haven't found anything that passes our test.
right.
So we've stuck with these 3 because they work and they're
And they
great.
made us feel so much better.
They do.
So-
They do. Look, no cracked and bleeding hands. Hair growth is good. No Pepsid for me since December 2023.
Overall, just more energy, just feel better
Yep.
overall. So
There you go. All right. Thank you, Melissa.
thank you.
You'll find them all at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right. We'll be right back.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisaw collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Hey everyone, Shalom, Aharon Levarko here. I'm speaking to you on behalf of Worldview Television and Radio, and I'm here at a historical site called Qumran, and this is right by the Dead Sea. And this is the famous place where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1947. You can actually see some of the pictures behind me, some of the excavations, the archaeological digging that's been going on for decades and still continues to go on. We have some of the stories, some of the pictures from some of the Bedouins and some of the early archaeologists, excavators here, going way back to 1947-48 when the scrolls were found and when the state of Israel was born. Very interesting timing. Of course, let's remember that back in those days, this land was not part of Israel. It was called Jordan or Transjordan. It was part of the Jordanian Hashemite kingdom. Now, since 1967, it's been handed over to us. And so I'm at the Qumran National Park. This is where people come in, they watch a movie, watch the story, and then we make our way outside and we have a look around the actual site where it happened. And we discover, firstly, in the background there, we have the Dead Sea. And this is why it's called the Dead Sea Scrolls, because the scrolls were found at the Dead Sea. And this is the lowest place in the world, the lowest place on the face of the planet Earth. That's probably about 1,300 feet below sea level. It's about 460 meters. And this is where the waters from not only the sky, but from the Jordan River flow into the Dead Sea. It has an inlet, but it has no outlet. That's why it's called the Dead Sea. The Bible doesn't call it the Dead Sea. It calls it the Salt Sea or the Sea of Lot. Why the Sea of Lot? Because behind me in the very, very distant, on the other side of the Dead Sea, are the Jordanian Moabite mountains. This is where the land of Moab is or was. And Moab was one of the two incestual sons of Lot. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah happened in this area. And when Lot fled, of course, his wife turned around. She was turned into a pillar of salt. And then the two daughters who were with the father Lot, they were all drinking. They took wine with them. They got their father drunk. They slept with him. And one son that was born was called Ammon, where we get the Ammonites. And the other one was Moab, where we get the Moabites. So they are the Moabite mountains there in the background. And that's part of today's Jordan, on the other side of the Dead Sea. And so moving forward to 1947, it was here in this very spot. There were a few young Bedouin shepherds who were out looking for their lost sheep. Now, Bedouins are found all around this area. They are desert nomads. It's actually believed that Abraham lived a very Bedouin nomadic life. They've been around for centuries. In fact, there's an ancient people going back even before the Israelite period called the Habiru. The word Habiru almost sounds Hebrew. Habiru, Hebrew, or Ivri, as we say in Hebrew. So it's believed that he could well have come and been part of that lifestyle. Certainly the Bible gives it that a picture of either a shepherd, a tent dweller, or a desert nomad. They are the three main pictures of a biblical character. But the Bedouins lived in this area, and they were one day out looking for their lost sheep, and they started throwing stones around, and lo and behold, they came into this area, and as they were throwing their stones around, they heard the breaking of pottery or glass. Now they went in and to one of the caves where they heard the breaking, and they were actually hoping there will be some treasure, because you know, when you see jars hidden, stored away, there's the excitement that maybe it's going to be some treasure. But they were very, very disappointed. They found that it wasn't treasure, but it was some scrolls in jars, and they didn't really know anything about history. But they did know someone that dealt in antiquities, and they sold it to him. And there's a couple of different stories. Some say it was the equivalent of about $100. Some say it was the equivalent of about $200. Some say maybe $250, which at that time was, you know, very good money. But it was nothing compared to what those original people who purchased them for however many dollars, they ended up 6-7 years later in 1954, when these scrolls somehow managed to find their way around the world. They found on the front page, there was an advertisement on the front page of the Washington Post: Dead Sea Scrolls for sale, $250 US. Now, people have tried to make an equivalent to what that would mean in today's language. When you kind of calculate what a typical house would cost in America in 1954, people calculate it could be $20-30 million equivalent. That was a lot of money, and it was purchased by one of the Israeli members of the Knesset, members of the government. His name was Yigal Yadin. And this is where the Dead Sea Scrolls became so famous. And it would take years and years, and still, of study, deciphering, and actually mending because of the state of some of the scrolls. We're going to get that into that very soon, but this is the site. And right behind me here, you can see some of the caves down here where those scrolls were found. And right up on the hills, sadly today, they have closed off all this region to go up because it's winter. And we've had a lot of rains and floods, and they have flash floods, serious flash floods down here. So they've closed off the caves. But it was in these caves, these very caves down here, that the scrolls were found. A number, about 14 different caves here in the Judean desert, or the Judean wilderness. And you can see down here some of the classic looking caves of Qumran. Well, once again, back with you at Qumran, right by the Dead Sea. And I'm at the site where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1947. Now the question is, what are the Dead Sea Scrolls and what's inside of the Dead Sea Scrolls? Well, firstly, let's discuss who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. The community here is called the community of either Qumran or the Essenes, one of the 24 Second Temple period sects, Jewish groups, Jewish sects, just like we have today. So they are commonly called the Essenes. And we'll talk about that in a little bit of time. But one of the key rooms that we found here at Qumran, it's called the scribe's room, the room where the scribe, the man who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, the New Testament talks about the scribes. Today, we don't really need scribes because of technology. But today you would probably use the term a writer or a journalist. But back in the ancient days, even in the days of the Bible, in the book of Jeremiah, we read about Baruch, the scribe, and even the prophets who wrote certain things. In some ways, you could call them scribes as well. But the scribe's room was perhaps the most important room in the sense that they were tasked with writing things down, usually on leather or papyrus. So we're in the room, and the room, it's kind of a rectangular room, and what we've got here, we've got a kind of an illustration here that you can see of what the room would have looked like. You've got different chambers, you've got here pictures of scribes working at their benches with the papyrus, with the scrolls. A very long, tedious job. No room for error. Every jot, every tittle had to be as much perfected as possible. Now, what's interesting about the scrolls that the biblical scrolls that have been found, they are the oldest manuscripts that we've got in our hands ever. Until these scrolls were found in 1947, the oldest scrolls, it was believed, were to be about dated to, and there's difference of opinion. Some say 400 AD, some say even up until 1000. But these scrolls go back at least 200 to 300 years BC. And so we're basically talking about a potentially 1,000 years older manuscripts that were found here from the time, or at least before 1947. So that's quite significant. And when you compare the biblical scrolls that were found here with the oldest ones that we already had in our hands, it's amazing how accurate they are. There's a few small little details of changes, because the Jewish sages and scribes, they used a manuscript called the Masoretic texts. And they were the main texts that were used to do translations into the different languages of the day: Latin, Greek, Aramaic, Hebrew. So you needed a base core translation text, and it was called the Masoretic text. Some people actually used what's called the Septuagint, the LXX, which is the Greek translation, to do all the other translations from. For example, Saint Jerome, who translated the Bible in the 5th, 6th century into Latin, he used the Septuagint. However, back in the days of the Essenes, it was believed that they used the Masoretic text. And as I said, there were a few differences. And, for example, one in 1 Samuel, it talks about someone offering up 3-year-old bulls. That's what it says, 3-year-old bulls. Well, in other translations, it's translated 3-year-old bulls. So you can see how easy it is to find it difficult to translate. Also, it talks about people that were building. The Hebrew word is bonim, which is very close to a word banim, which means sons. So some translations, they have sons, and some translations, they have builders. And actually, that's what a son is. Ben, from the word banai, which means a builder, or a binyan, a building. But, you know, just one little vowel can make a difference. Banim, sons, bonim, builders. So you can see how what a task, what a job it is to be a scribe, to find ways to, you know, as accurate as possible, not to go off track when they are doing the translations. It's been said that the three main genre or kind of writings that were found here at Qumran, number one, which I've just been talking about, the biblical writings. And we've got texts and manuscripts from practically every book in the Old Testament. The New Testament hadn't been written yet. From every book except one, and that's Esther. And they even have the whole book of Isaiah in its entirety. So you've got biblical scrolls. Then you've got community or cultural or social scrolls, and they are what happened at the community here in Qumran. Then you've got the other, which are often called apocalyptical writings. End days, people really believed in that kind of literature, apocalyptical. And actually, I don't know if you can hear, but in the background, there's a whole lot of falling rocks and water coming out. It's a bit far to see, but I can hear it in the background. That's why they've closed off the caves, because usually when it rains heavy down here, there are dangers. Because what happens, the rocks out here are very soft rock, mostly limestone and sandstone. And because they're so soft, they split, and the water seeps in through the rocks, and it bottles up, and the pressure often, every so often, it bursts out and breaks out into flash floods, and they're very, very dangerous. People get trapped, people die out here. But the third kind of writing that I was talking about are called apocalyptical. You know, just like today, we have our favorite kind of writings, love stories, suspense, drama. People are into horror, comedy. Well, back in those days, one of the most popular kind of writings were apocalyptic, end time stuff. The book of Daniel, the book of the Apocalypse, the book of Revelation, the book of Ben Sirah. These were all well-read books, and a lot of the writings we read about are about the end day events. Just like today, people are interested, and people should be interested. After all, when you look at the signs of the times, we're probably in those last days. Hey everyone, Aharon Levarko, back with you live here from Qumran. Qumran, at the lowest place in the world, the Dead Sea. And this is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. But we're going to talk a little bit about who lived here. It was a community of Jewish people called the Essenes. The Essenes were one of 24 different Jewish sects and groups at the Second Temple period. Josephus Flavius, our famous Jewish historian, mentions them. Philo of Alexandria, Egypt, he mentions them also, along with Pliny the Elder, the Roman historian. They are the three main sources that mention the Essenes, along with the New Testament. And the Essenes are, the picture that's painted is that they're a very strict religious Jewish group that broke away from mainstream Judaism. In fact, down here, they were so upset and incensed about what was going on in the temple up in Jerusalem, which is probably about an hour and a half's drive from here, that they actually, even though they didn't sacrifice, or once or twice a year they would sacrifice, but in general, they looked upon their community here as kind of like a temple. And they would go about very kind of priestly functioning, especially when it came to ritual purity. They had here a number of what are called mikvaot, or ritual pools for purifying. And they would bathe themselves regularly. We call them baptismal pools. You know, baptism today is very, very different. If you go back to the Second Temple period, baptism or immersion or ritual purification pool, as what they were called. In Hebrew we say mikvaot, or mikvah, singular. They were used for, if you touched the dead, you were defiled, so you would purify yourself. If you, once a month, a woman had to go into a ritual bath. After sexual relations, you would have to go into a bath. Before you offered a sacrifice for sins, you would have to be ritually pure. So that was a big part. And the strictness, the rules here, to join the community, according to our ancient sources, it actually took years. You had to study Torah, you had to be learned in the scriptures. You had to know them in very much depth. So it was not an easy club, not an easy group to join. Some people say that the most that the people had in this particular spot here, based on the archaeological findings, were maybe up to 200, maybe a little bit more at a time. But overall, in different little communities, there were approximately about 4,000 Essenes. Some people say John the Baptist was a member of the community because of his strictness for ritual purity. In fact, not far from here, at the very northern part of the Dead Sea, which is right there, that's where the southern part of the Jordan River enters into the Dead Sea. It was there that John baptized. So the location where he baptized, ritual purity, some of the things that were found, wild honey, which is what it says in the New Testament was his diet. Wild honey back in those days is date palm honey, where they take the dates and they crush it. And that was the one of the two main industries that the Essenes were involved in. Number one was dates, and number two was pottery. We found thousands of potsherds, pieces of pottery here, but the date apparatus for making date honey, bearing and camel skin. It says that John the Baptist wore skins of camel. We also found remains of that here. Fascinating. So all signs point to John the Baptist being a member of here. Now, the leader of the community is accredited to a man called, and they don't give his name, they call him the teacher of righteousness. And somehow he had under him a guardian or guardians who took care of the running of the community. We don't have many names. We don't have a lot of information. But they were a very strict religious group, probably very close to the New Testament picture of a Pharisee. And some people actually say that Jesus could well have been a member of this community himself. In any event, the date apparatuses, the pottery, the water would come in down through aqueducts, or rather from the mountains, and they would drain into the aqueducts, and the aqueducts would feed cisterns. We found cisterns here as well. So they were pretty self-contained. They had water that they stored. They had their dates. They grew things down here as well. They had their animals based on the bones that have been found, goats, camels, donkeys. Now, women were not part of the community as far as we study. Men were allowed to be married and have children, but not as part of the community. This was kind of a strict men's club. And the only bones or graves that have been found were actually dated to sometime later, quite a few centuries later. So we don't really have remains of any women or children's bones from that time period. But obviously, as they continued to grow in numbers, they needed to procreate. And so some of the strict rules were that you could only have sexual relations for procreation, and anything outside of that was looked upon as immoral. As I say, they were a very, very strict, observant Jewish community, strictly into righteousness and purity. And here, down here, you can see actually some of the original ritual baths, called a mikveh in Hebrew. And it's been very well dug up here. This is a thoroughly excavated site. They're not really doing any more excavations at the site, but what they have done is just before COVID, they went up into the cave, into the mountains. They wanted to do one more final dig. It's been pretty thoroughly searched out in these mountains. They wanted to do one more final search, and they actually found some more scrolls. We don't know what's inside of them yet. They're still ciphering them and maybe cleaning them up. That's what they had to do with some of the original scrolls and fragments and manuscripts that were found. Down here, we actually see the remains of a potter's workshop. I mentioned that pottery was a key part of the community here. There you've got an urn. You've got a place where they put the wood in for the fire, and then on top of it you've got the oven there where they would harden the clay and make it into pottery. So this was, as I say, a pretty self-contained community where they lived and they went about their business. Very strict rules, joining, leaving, disciplinarian rules. But like I said, it took a long time to enter in, and you had to be studied. You had to be a learned man of God's word. Well, I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit of the history, seeing some of the sites here at Qumran, and finding out what was found here in the sense of the scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Let me just close and finish off by talking about a little bit about the importance of the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know, some people say that the Dead Sea Scrolls are the most important archaeological finding ever. Well, that's a matter of opinion, but let's not downplay how important these scrolls are, because what we find in the scrolls is a mass amount of not only history, but life, what happened in the Second Temple period, what went on, the kind of lifestyle, the kind of living. And when you take what we found in the Dead Sea Scrolls and compare it to other writings like Josephus, like Philo of Alexandria, like Pliny the Elder, the Roman historian, and the New Testament, especially the New Testament, and we compare and contrast the different writings, it really helps us understand more of the life and the times. Number one, that's probably one of the most important things. Number two, of course, are the actual biblical texts. We've got the oldest biblical text ever, dating to at least 600 BC. Some people have different opinions on that. Some people would say it only goes to about 300 BC. In any event, they are the oldest manuscripts that we have in our hands. And then, of course, are the apocalyptical writings, really showing us what the Essenes believed in, what was going on in the day as far as the priestly corruption in the temple, how the Hellenization, the Greek influence, the Greco-Roman influence, how it infiltrated into the Jewish community. Some of the lessons we can learn today about assimilation, allowing the culture, the influence of the day to creep into your spiritual life or your religious life. This is what's actually split the Jewish community. This is actually why the Pharisees were so strict, because they could see how the Hellenization was influencing the Jewish world, and so they wanted to protect them, and they became so strict. The Sadducees, they were the opposite. They adopted the Greco-Roman world and lifestyle, and even their names, Josephus Flavius. That's a very Greek name. That's not his original name. His original name was Josephus ben Matityahu, a very Jewish Hebrew name. But he adopted a Greek name. And so the Sadducees, who were originally, we say the Tzadokim, in English it's Sadducees. The Tzadokim are the sons of Zadok. They originated from Zadok, the high priest. But they got so affected by the culture of the day that they sided with the Herodians. They sided with the Romans. And they even ended up paying the Romans for the high priestly office. And these are some of the reasons why the Essenes broke away from mainstream Judaism and came down to places like here at Qumran, the backside of the Judean desert, where they could live a life of silence, of meditation, of purity. They felt that it was easier for them to live here. They called themselves the Sons of Light, and they were in a battle against people called the Sons of Darkness. Probably they were referring to the corrupt priests, but they were waiting for some kind of savior, some kind of Messiah to overthrow the corruption, the darkness, the sons of darkness. So I hope you enjoyed this experience, and I hope if you want to dig deeper, there's lots of books written about the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it will certainly help us understand and cipher books like the New Testament or the Apocrypha, those intertestamental period books that if you're a Catholic, you will have those books in your Bible. So this is Aharon Levarko saying shalom from Qumran here at the Dead Sea, the lowest place on the face of the planet Earth.
All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. Hey, don't forget, if you appreciate all we're doing, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you for your support. You can make one by credit card, PayPal, mail, or phone. worldviewfoundation.com. All right, roll the music. Let's call it a night. Hey, don't forget, you can also get a bunch of our business cards. It's even got a little QR code on there. Get a bunch of the little business cards to pass out to your family and friends, and even maybe the waiter or waitress or whoever it might be. Tell them about Worldview Tube, all right? Get those business cards. They're absolutely free. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. You can also pick up freeze-dried food and a lot of other prepper gear while you're there as well. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us. Donald Trump at the World Economic Forum at Davos. Apparently, it started out with a little bit of an issue. Air Force One having to turn around after it got out over the ocean and come back. Apparently, a small or minor electrical issue. So he went from that big, beautiful 747 to the smaller backup plane, which automatically, once he stepped on board, became Air Force One. He gave a speech. Boy, did he give a speech. How many of you have been watching the clips of President Trump and laughing? Oh, I loved it. As I said yesterday, he has not ruled out replacing the United Nations since we went off the air yesterday. Last night on television, we actually played a clip where he was asked, are you trying to replace the United Nations? Well, he wasn't saying a hard no or a hard yes. He was, well, it hasn't lived up to its potential. So now he goes to the meeting there in Davos, and he goes after windmills and solar panels and Agenda 21, sustainable development. He goes after the war on carbon and fossil fuels. He goes after all of their idea of shareholder capitalism. Everybody's got to have some equity, you know, everybody's got to have some equity in the game. Really? How much money did you put into the game? But you see, they want to give the homeless people stock in your company. You owe even the homeless something, because if it wasn't for us, your business wouldn't be here. You didn't build that business. Remember that from Barack Hussein Obama? He went after NATO. He went after all of them, including what he called the stupid immigration policies. I mean, get your popcorn, watch the speech if you didn't see it. We'll be bringing you some clips today. Now, I'm excited. I agree with what he's talking about 100%. Thank you, President Trump. I told you guys, when he does good, I'm going to praise him. When he does things I don't like, I'm going to say, what's going on here, sir? But I must say, today's speech was fun to watch, and I agreed with so much of it. He had no problem insulting them right to their faces, even saying some of them on the front row right down here, they won't even look up. They're staring at the ground. They don't want to look me in the eye. It was classic Donald Trump, going from teleprompter to just ad lib. And the stage was kind of set yesterday with his Secretary of Commerce, Lupnick, saying that the WEF, World Economic Forum, were basically a bunch of dingalings, that they want to think they can do all of this with solar panels and windmills, and China's the one that makes the batteries. You guys can't even get the battery. You're going to have to be dependent on China. Why would you want to be dependent on people that are against you? Why would you not want to make alliances with people that are for you? So here's the great question today. You know, you always like to serve it up with a little positive, praise where praise is worthy, but then we have to start asking questions. So Donald Trump is overturning the new, or should say the old world order. He's overturning the old world order. The question is now, what will be the replacement? Have we just gone from the Great Reset to the Trump reset? Can I say that again? Have we just gone from the Great Reset to the Trump reset? And does that Trump reset actually put in place the tech bros, more technology, transhumanism, technocracy? I have to ask these questions. That's our job, folks. I can offer up praise where I agree, and then where I don't understand fully where the direction is, I just have to ask questions. I'm not going to make full judgments today. We don't have enough information. So all we can do is say, this is wonderful. I agree with what he said here and here and here. Now, what is the replacement system going to be? Donald Trump is not part of the good old boy club. I think he's always kind of been on the outside and looked down on, much the way JFK was. Didn't end too well for JFK, did he? I don't think Donald Trump's been a big fan, I found out yesterday, of the United Nations, particularly when they wouldn't let him, I guess, have the contract to remodel, according to one well-placed journalist in Israel who's apparently very close to Netanyahu. So this would be very typical of Donald Trump. You guys have snubbed me. You have treated me with disrespect. You treat my country with disrespect. You mock me. You applaud all of the horrible things that have happened to me during my first administration and then while I was out for 4 years, and we're coming back for revenge. Now, I'm not saying that that's the answer. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. But Donald Trump is known for the video clips of saying, when people pick a fight, you finish it. You get revenge. Is that what's involved here in part? I don't know. I'm just, again, asking questions. Now, I'm certainly not going to shed a tear for the United Nations and the globalists and the World Economic Forum. If he wants to destroy them and take out his anger on them, I say, have at it, Mr. President. Whether his motive is my motive, liberty, freedom, sovereignty, anti-globalism, which I think those fit with him, or whether he is rooted more in revenge, it doesn't matter to me in the end, as long as that system is destroyed. But the question is, as I said, what will it be replaced by? We talked yesterday and then last night with Aharon Levarko and Shahram Hadian about this Gaza International Board. That to me is fascinating because apparently he's going to be the chairman of the board, Donald Trump. And you can join for $1 billion. And we said, wait a minute, what if some people step forward who are multi-billionaires and say, I'll put up that $1 billion and sit on that board? And they go to the leadership of their country and say, I'm putting up the $1 billion, guys. I am going to be the spokesperson for our country. A lot of those countries are going to say, sounds good to us, because I'm guessing that those billionaires do a lot for their country and have a lot of sway. And now all of a sudden you have not just central bankers involved, not just politicians involved, you have billionaires. Now you're combining that big government and big business model that we've talked about, warned about for years as we've studied Revelation 17 and 18 together. And Daniel. So what is this setting the stage for? We have to ask those questions even prophetically. We can't be dogmatic. There's a lot of information to gather and to watch, but we sure can ask questions and say, isn't this interesting? Where could this be going? Let's get some analysis today by Patrick Wood and by Trevor Loudon. Patrick Wood already has an article out at technocracy.news entitled, Looking Backwards and Forward. Did Trump just trigger the World Economic Forum's Great Reset? I think we're going to be going from calling it the Great Reset, as I said, to the Trump Reset. He even joked today, maybe we can find the clip, he even joked today about, the Gulf of America. Maybe we should have called it the Gulf of Trump. That sounds kind of good. We still have time to change that. I'm just joking. I'm not so sure. I think there's a little bit of truth in that joke there. But I don't care if he calls it the Gulf of Trump. I just like how he's rubbing their noses in the carpet here. Let's go to our guests, Patrick Wood and Trevor Loudon. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us. Oh, that was a great response by Trevor. Boy, he has never been so profound. Great response, Trevor. We'll get him back. I thought he'd become a computer for a moment there. Let's go to Patrick. Patrick, the floor is all yours. You already have an article out. Tell us about it. And we got to get your mic unmuted. We got to get your mic unmuted. Boy, we're having a great day here.
It is.
There you go. There you
Teams.
are.
There we
you
go. We have to wait a little bit, I think, to assess what just happened. Mm-hmm. But the effect of it at this point. In the meantime, we can all just get in line with his speech, because I would have said the same thing if I was invited there. I would exactly say the same stuff. But at this point, yes, there's the Great Reset is upon us, no doubt. All of this baggage that got us here in the first place, like the United Nations and the Green New Deal and all that, the windmills and all that nonsense, stakeholder capitalism, all that stuff. That's how technocracy got launched in the first place. We know this has been a concerted plan, started way back in the 1970s. And we saw the formation of Agenda 21, for instance, at the United Nations, the 2030 Agenda, the new urban agenda after that, and everything sustainable development has all been about disrupting capitalism and free market economics, period, end of subject. So at this point, we've seen the leaves peeled off of this whole narrative about the United Nations, et cetera, over several months at this point. So this is the coup de grace at this point. Trump's speech today is going to shake up the world big time. And we have to assess now, what will they take it to heart or not? I think they will. And I
think they will too. And he kind of scared them too, because he's talking about all the great weapons we have, and that in Venezuela, the weapons we have, he says, they weren't even able to fire a shot. He says that none of our people got injured and that their guns wouldn't work. They weren't able to pull the trigger. I don't know if we have that clip either, but at this point, he's probably scaring some of these people. Now, he has backed away from taking Greenland. I guess he's now saying military option. And that, of course, that's the art of the deal. Basically, it goes from, I'm going to break your kneecaps to, I'll take money and we'll work a deal. I mean, it's basically, here's $700 billion, or I break your proverbial national kneecaps, which we'll take the money. So, he always starts out with the worst situation and then negotiates down to what it finally is. I guess that's how he always starts with the art of the deal. And now he's saying no military action. But I'm thinking a lot of them are afraid of him after watching whatever technology we have that we used on Venezuela, right?
Yes, he massaged them to death with he did multiple times along the way. And he's lambasting Europe in general, because we bailed them out of World War II in the first place. And Denmark,
he said you guys would be speaking German and some Japanese if it wasn't for us.
I know, and he's right, probably. But Denmark, poor little Denmark, beautiful country. It really is a beautiful country, I think. It has a lot of beautiful people. It got invaded from the south, but at this point, he said, you lasted 6 days in World War II before you folded to the Nazis. and we came and bailed you out of that. And here you are, a free country today. You've enjoyed all these benefits along the way. We want payback, basically. Mm-hmm. And, he said, this probably rightly so. The United States had possession of Greenland in the first place after World War II. They gave it back to Denmark. They could have held on to it at that point, but they gave it back to Denmark.
We always give away the good stuff.
I know. So
the canal, Panama Canal, all these things we give away, we shouldn't be giving away. He even had a couple swipes at the folks up in Minnesota. He said, who knew that those Somalis had an IQ that high? We never thought those Somalis had an IQ that high, but apparently it's a little bit higher than we thought, because they were able to carry out one of the biggest frauds. I mean, he took swipes at everybody, even bringing in Minnesota, and of course the 2020 election, that it's rigged. We'll be back with more, including Trevor Loudon. Don't go away. What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming.